Oh, it's fun, crazy. It's painful, but it's wonderful. What is the name?
It's Reusse Unchained.
Just another slow weekend, Patrick.
Yes.
Nothing to talk about.
I
I don't even know what we should talk about.
We're both wearing maroon in honor of the Gophers' stout victory over Rhode Island.
Yes.
But Mac Brosmer looked pretty good against his old opponent there, Rhode Island. So that was a cause for optimism, right? Mm-hmm. 500,000 to play those people. Did they have 500,000 worth of tickets sold for that game? Do you think? I don't know.
Highly doubt
anybody there? You didn't even tailgate for this one, right?
No tailgating, no nothing. And it was streaming on Peacock, which on a football Saturday is awful because, again, you got to get out of the streaming to go flip around channels.
Yes, yeah, that is that's the bad news. But then again, I had no interest in watching it anyway, so that was good too. So, but hey, they're 1-0 in Rhode Island championship season, right? So that's good. And he had the guts to crowd surf his team. Oh. Even after beating Rhode Island, which I thought maybe he would have the pride not to do that. Yep. But you showed me a picture of him. He hides, and then he comes running into the locker room, right?
Yeah, it looks like his wife comes in first, and then somebody else comes in, and then he comes running in. FCS schools, you should not be allowed to crowd surf your players.
Well, I still think the highlight of last season was Brett Bielema coming in and mimicking Fleck at TCF Bank Stadium after he beat Illinois, because those guys got some chuckles because here comes a 350-pound crowd surfer, which would have been pretty funny. But
yes,
Bielema. But how bad is Kansas football now? I mean, Illinois football now that they have to rush the field after they beat Kansas, for goodness sakes. Come on.
And Nebraska did too, Pat.
Nebraska did.
They rushed the field.
They beat Colorado. They rushed the field too. It's getting out of hand here. Nebraska has no pride. Although I watched a bit of Nebraska. I don't know how good Colorado is. Probably not very good. But this is a good year not to have them on the schedule. I think the years of beating Nebraska could be over because they got some athletes now and they got the quarterback. So you're probably fortunate you're not playing him. So before we talk about the sagging, dying Twinks, we should probably talk about the optimism that the rest of you now share with me about the Vikings. All you people who were not optimistic. I found a column I wrote on April 20th saying that the Vikings had won the offseason, and Kirk yesterday put up a 59 quarterback rating. Our guy was 113. So let's give the Vikings credit. You know what? In retrospect, Judd, the loss to Daniel Jones and the Giants might be one of the worst losses in the history of the franchise. Mm-hmm. But in retrospect, it was good. It was terrible for the Giants because then they ended up paying this stiff, and now they're dead for 4 years. I mean, they're going to have to fish and cut bait and on him. And we got to get rid of Kirk. We kept Kirk one more year, but if he had made a little playoff run that year, they probably would have gotten in a situation where they had to extend him before last season, right?
Maybe.
These guys never had any intention of bringing him back, no matter what crap they were handing out to you about we'd like to have him back. They wanted to sail. They wanted that ship to sail, and they got rid of him. And Sam Darnold was, I'm not saying he's as good as Kirk, but he's not much worse, I don't think.
And cheaper.
Way cheaper and more mobile. And he can do something. He can run a little bit. He's more noble. And they ended up drafting somehow because of the number of idiots drafting ahead of them. Mm-hmm. They drafted the NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year. Dallas Turner is going to be the NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year. The guy's a monster. And then you throw in Van Ginkel and the other guy, and you got rid of Danielle Hunter. Did Danielle Hunter do anything yesterday? Do we know?
I think he had a sack.
He did? Okay.
I mean, he's fine, but they got
he's fine.
The room is better. Like they have more viable rush ends now.
They got more bodies. And
Yes.
you had Turner, you had Van Ginkel, and you had what, Greenland, is it? What's Grenard.
Grenard. Yeah, they added guys.
And they got 3 guys for the price of 1, basically. So they had a great offseason, I think. And I said, everybody was saying, 7-10 if they're lucky, 4th in this much improved NFC Central. No, it's the same. The Bears were awful. The Detroits are overrated. They're okay, but they're overrated. And the Packers are going to be 2-8 before this guy Jordan Love comes back. They're dead.
When's
and
he back?
They say, well, maybe 3 weeks. He is not coming back in 3 weeks. He's coming back in 6 or 7 or 8 weeks, and by then they'll be buried. You think they're going to win any games with Malik Willis playing quarterback? Where was he? Tennessee? And
Tennessee.
Didn't make it, right?
They traded the
they
Packers.
drafted him.
Yes, they drafted him, I think, in the 4th round a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And then they traded him to the Packers late in camp because the Packers had nobody as a backup quarterback.
Who was there last year as their backup? Did they let go? Did anybody? I can't remember who was their backup quarterback. But
I think the guy that's now the practice squad guy.
Well, anyway, it was a great Sunday for the. It was a great opening week for the Vikings because the Packers now are out of it. They're not going to be a contender, and the Bears. Caleb Williams, I watched a little.
Yeah,
he was not too accurate. He had guys running down the sideline, and he was throwing the ball like 12 yards away from them, and he was he passed for 92 yards.
Yeah, he was under 100.
92.
Yep.
92 yards. They got 2 fluke touchdowns, a punt return and a kick return and a
interception.
And an interception was otherwise they did absolutely nothing offensively. So, yeah, great week for the NFC North also Rans. The over and under on this team was 6.5 to win.
I think that's what it finished at. Yeah, going into the regular season.
Why? I don't get it. They're better than they were last year. I don't get it. They got Aaron Jones if he stays healthy.
And their defense is going to be good.
I do agree with Mark Craig's observation today, though. I usually agree with the Wise Old Owl's observation. But why is Aaron Jones in there running 6 times at the end of the game?
Oh, they explained it. They were trying to get him.
They wanted to get him 100 yards. Who cares?
Yeah.
You want him to play in November. That's what you want. You don't care about, Meanwhile, while we don't want to stretch out Bailey Ober in baseball, we're willing to stretch out Aaron Jones in football when the game is won. I don't quite get that. So
it is nice to see that the Vikings have a running back who knows where to go as well.
Yes.
That touchdown run, it was 3 yards. It was the most glorious 3 yards I've seen in years because poor old Alexander Madison would have gone right into the middle of the line and been stopped.
Yes. And I see Alexander somewhere, like, is it the Raiders or something?
Scored a touchdown on a reception.
And he, at one point I saw his stats, he had 3 carries for 8 yards or something like that. But
and he's not a bad little backup to put in.
No.
But, he had no business being a starting running back.
No. So, they looked terrific. But Aaron Jones, Packers, you got him for $7 million too, right? I mean, he basically.
Yep. You're popular. You're popular.
I got to turn this off. I got to turn that off. Sorry. I put out a call for something. So I'm very fired up for a Notre Dame loses to Northern Illinois column for this week. Because, it was if my Irish aunts were still alive, they would have been a crisis of faith for them to see Notre Dame lose to Northern Illinois at home. Unbelievable. Anyway. There's no reason for pessimism right now for the Vikings because the defense is way better, way way better than 2 years ago and better than last year. So and more bodies. They got 6, 7 guys in the secondary. You got a bunch of safeties, and they got they might have failed with Booth and Sign, but they ended up with 3 veteran cornerbacks, right?
Yeah.
So they know what they're doing back there too, and he's great at when to bring pressure and when to not. And they didn't bring much pressure yesterday, did they? They did it mostly with 4 or 5 guys.
They
right?
didn't have to.
No.
Daniel Jones is so bad. They probably ran like half their defensive game plan, if that, at that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's awful.
He's better. He's better when you're playing an umbrella. We've proved that. Eh?
Yeah.
We've seen that. How did he play that game, though, against the Vikings in here? I know it was Ed Donatell's offense, but he also hit his receivers, right? He can't do that now.
But there's no pressure, right? I don't remember much pressure. And the safeties were back. Like, it was the most. But at the end of the day, Donatell got himself fired. He's going to get Dable fired, and he might get the GM of the Giants fired because off of that one game they said, "Oh, okay, this is the new Daniel Jones."
Yeah.
I mean, how do you recover from this?
Is Donatell his defensive coordinator?
No, I'm saying that one game with Ed as the Vikings DC is going to get people fired.
Oh, God, yes.
Because that contract was based on that game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what I'm saying too.
Yeah.
It was a great. In retrospect, it was a great day for the Vikings and a terrible day for the Giants. They end up with a quarterback who's a stiff, who can run, but he's a stiff.
Yep.
And we got rid of Kirk. If Kirk had won that game, who knows? The Kirkies were the Kirkies weren't very visible yesterday, were they? You didn't see much of the Kirkies on Twitter yesterday defending. They were sitting around waiting to see the Vikings get beat and Kirk light it up for the Falcons, and that didn't exactly happen.
I think Kirk threw for a grand total of something like 19 yards or 17 yards in the entire second half.
Really?
It was awful. It was an awful performance.
And the trouble now is, for what they've created down there, he comes out and plays again like that next week, the crowd's going to start booing him and want Penix, right?
Yeah, hell
They're
yeah.
going to want Penix.
That's going to become the question now.
And they got to keep him for 2 years, right? And and how much of that, whatever that $50 million a year is guaranteed? Has he got 2 years of that?
Yeah, I think it's a 4-year contract, and I think $100 million is guaranteed.
Wow, unbelievable!
But he tore his Achilles. Like there is footage of him trying to throw passes on Sunday. He can't plant his right foot yet. He probably shouldn't be playing yet.
Wow.
He's an old guy.
It was greatest agent in the history of sports, though.
Oh, yeah.
Man, he got us to. I mean, when you look back at his tenure here, what was accomplished by bringing him in? Nothing. Zim was right. Zim was right.
Yeah.
People don't want to admit it, but Zim was right. What that did to the. Now they were desperate because Teddy was ruined.
Right.
But Zim was, urinating away all your money on your quarterback. Zim wanted to spend it on his defense, by God.
And there's a fighting chance, too, that Kirk's decision to leave here, like O'Connell is the guy that propped him up for 2 years.
Yeah.
Like O'Connell did great work with him, but he only could go so far. And
well,
so like
2 years ago, though, when what were they 2 years ago?
13?
2 years or 13 and 4.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, to me, okay, what are they last year if he doesn't get hurt? They probably make the playoffs, right?
Yeah, he's playing really well.
Maybe go 9-8 or 10. What do they end up? 7-10, right? They might end up 10-7.
Yeah,
but they're not going anywhere. No. And the best thing that happened to them is they ended up with Turner and they ended up with great. They end up with McCarthy, and now the question becomes, after watching Darnold yesterday, what can they get for McCarthy next year before the draft? What can they get for McCarthy? Oh. So anyway, they got an abundance of quarterback greatness. They don't know what to do with it.
You haven't been this high on the Vikings for this long of time span since I think I've met you.
Yes.
Perhaps in your Pioneer Press days, there was a span, but I don't remember since you moved to the Star Tribune in '88. I don't remember you being this high on this team for this extended of time.
No, I had to eat a lot of words back in, '88 was the, when they made the playoff run in '87.
Yep.
That was after belittling the hell out of them for backing into the playoffs, and then they should have won to the Super Bowl because they played great down the stretch. And as we were writing about that team, we were treating it at the end like an 8-7 team, but it was an 8-4 team. It was at one time it was 8-2.
Yes.
Then they lost their last two, but they were an unlikable collection of human beings. So I have my big advantage of now being optimistic about the Vikings. I never go out there. I never have to deal with them. I don't know if they're jackasses or not like they used to be. So they seem to be okay guys, but you don't get enough access. I don't think you get enough access to them now in the locker room, so that somebody's going to run over and say, "Don't talk to that SOB," like it used to be in the old days when they all knew you and stuff like that. So it's the 3 or 4 times I've been in the locker room at whatever we call Winter Park now. It's been just, there's no standing there talking to somebody by yourself for 15 minutes.
Well, it's a palace in there too now. Players can go anywhere that,
Yes.
Players can escape much easier than they could back in the day.
Yeah. So I have no reason to have animosity to them anymore, like back in the old days. When I saw Burke a couple of weeks ago at the memorial type event for the Roger Erickson, the wacky flexibility coach, everybody with big underground St. Paul character. I told him, I said, back in the day, man, the motto was on Mondays, Burke at 1, Denny at 3. Outside of that, the locker room was empty, and they wouldn't come in. They all would hide as much as they could. Now I don't know what it's like, and it's fine with me. I mean, you don't need me. I think we've added a 4th Viking guy. They were hiring him. I don't know if they've hired him or not. It might be a gal.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it's a woman or a man, but they had 3 or 4 candidates. So we got them, and then we got 3 other columnists to cover. They don't need me out there to.
Well, and look at you now.
You're
optimistic.
Yes, right. I don't have to deal with them. You know what I always said when people told me they love the Vikings? I said that's because you haven't met them. But
it was a crustier crew back in that day.
Oh God, yes, and you know what? Plus, if you worked for a newspaper, then you were the outlet, right?
Yes.
That's where they saw their stuff. Now they don't give a damn.
God, no.
No, it's great. You work for an newspaper, so what? What did ESPN say about them?
Correct.
What
they don't know people's names.
What did the Nationals say about them? No, it's Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards said to Chris Hine halfway through this year, "Why are you here all the time?" Or something. Maybe, I don't know when it was, but at some point this year, "Why are you're at every game. What are you doing?" Of course, I don't think he would know Sham or any Woj or anybody, do you? I don't think. I don't know. Anybody.
Yeah, he might not. But that is that's indicative of like today's player. If you could write a column in the Star Tribune, rip them up and down, but if you went on ESPN show and talked about that column, they would be so upset.
Yeah, that is the whole situation. It's completely different, like it was when Scott Studwell used to question whether anybody should speak to you in the clubhouse, in the locker room. So
yeah, linebackers.
It's a little different.
Yes, absolutely. I said the linebackers were as cantankerous a group as there was back then.
I've told this story 50 times though. Randall having the cutout photos of Barrero and I on the side of his locker to see who he was mad at. And I went over to him one day and I said, "Hey, John, it's not that big a problem. I'm the big chubby guy. He's the skinny guy." As Herbie once said, You look like Tabrero. You look like you got AIDS, and Reusse looks like he ate somebody who had AIDS. So that was.
That would get you in trouble now.
You don't. Oh yeah, you don't get those quips anymore. Plus, you can't make it. You don't want to be making AIDS jokes. But it was. This is 30 years ago, and let's not be mad at anybody for something that was said 30 years ago.
I don't think Herbeck would care now.
No, he wouldn't care.
I don't think he'd give a damn then or now.
He wouldn't care. Herbie's getting married, by the way.
Congratulations.
I think this month. I think in October. I think he told me in October.
What a brilliant man.
Oh God!
2 championships, retired early, and has lived the good life since.
Yes.
A lot of respect for Kent.
Yes, and he wanders in, and when he doesn't. I think he goes to quite a few games, but he hangs out, goes to the bar named after him, and then watches a few innings and goes home. I don't think he doesn't come up to the press box and mingle with people and stuff like that.
He used to come up more. But I think we drive him crazy still. I think he can't stand us.
Well, he's I think he and I are okay now. We weren't always. There were a couple of bad moments there, so
it was your
not too bad. Yeah, he was.
Hey, speaking of that, it's a perfect transition. Turkey of the year, which I think you have an idea about.
Yes.
How much is this Twins meltdown changing the committee's thought process?
The Twins operation is certainly in strong contention. It's just where we go with the idea. But this goes back to losing Sonny Gray and not doing anything about it. And Ober, luckily for them, came along and pitched great. But Rocco is losing his composure here. Saturday, when he made the unbelievable decision to hook Bailey Ober after retiring 15 straight and throwing 83 pitches and facing the bottom of the order and going to get an extra day off before his next start because Thursday's the day off, so he'll be pitching Friday on an extra day's rest. To take him out was just completely asinine. I don't care what anybody says. And Duran came in, and from his first or second pitch, you could tell he didn't have it. He struck out the first guy because the guy swung at 3 balls. It was 3-1, and he didn't throw a strike, and the guy fouled off, fouled off 2 and then struck out. So he didn't get an out outside of that. He just had nothing. But that's not the point. The Durand was bad. The point is, why? Why are you doing this?
Yep.
Why, get yourself in this situation. And I see he's being defended that this is the way you would have done it in the playoffs. Well, this wasn't the playoffs. And, Duran hasn't been the same this year, and he's not, they're trying to figure out, why'd they bring in Duran instead of Jax for the 8th? Because they wanted Duran facing the bottom of the order. That's why, because Jax is better than him right now.
Right.
But it made no sense. It's the second time he's done that in this collapse, this six wins, 14 losses in the last 20 games. It's the second time he's done that. Last time was even stupider because he ended up getting a situation where he had to let Steven Okert pitch the 8th inning. And that was the game where he took out Ober too soon and then took out Jax after 10 pitches and lost that. Which game was that? That's early in this. That's early.
The Tuesday night
this collapse, right?
Disaster in San Diego?
Yes.
Because they won game 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I think that was the second game of that series.
I think he's lost his composure because last night, yesterday, he ripped his team and wouldn't talk to the reporters afterwards. He didn't want to answer any questions, which is a first, I think.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever said, I have no comment beyond I'm going to say,
we're not professional.
So here's what I don't get. He called him unprofessional after the night before. He screwed the pooch. This is not the time to dump on your players.
No, I didn't. I thought the timing was awful because, as you say, I wonder if anybody in that room, as he's yelling at him, said, "Why'd you take out Ober?"
Yeah, I know.
That would be, that would be a pretty good response. And I didn't, frankly, I didn't see anything different than anything more unprofessional than they've been during this whole slump. And you know why they're unprofessional? Because the lineup sucks.
Right.
Right now you look at the lineup.
3 kid pitchers.
Yeah,
they're trying to run off 3. Who are trying?
3 kid pitchers, but the 1 through 9.
Yep.
Matt Wallner's your best player, right? He wasn't here this year. Right now, he's your best player.
Yep.
And Royce Lewis is in the tank, and you're missing now Kepler. He's no loss the way he was playing.
No.
But
no.
You'd probably rather have him than some of the other guys you got playing out there. So,
but still,
it was. I mean, why is Kyle Farmer still here? Why is he? Isn't there?
He's great in the clubhouse. Great in the clubhouse. He's great.
Well, apparently he couldn't do anything about making them unprofessional last night. So,
well, and Correa, the game on Saturday night was a Fox game. So, Rosenthal has this report. I reached out and I talked to Correa this morning, and he says the last 2 days have been 2 of his best days, and he said he still has no timetable for a rehab assignment.
Yes.
What? And just shut it down, man. If it's done, it's done.
The other thing is, he's all this optimism. He's feeling better, but he's not going to play on this homestand.
Right.
So,
but that's what I'm saying is he
which
keeps
is
saying
basically this homestand is basically your season. If you don't go 4-2 on this homestand, you ain't going to make it to the finish line. You got to win both series, don't you? Against the Angels
you got
Cincinnati. Now, Cincinnati's not as bad as their record. They just swept the Houston, and they got a fairly good lineup.
But you should sweep the Angels.
Well, yeah, you should. But, I don't know. The Angels. You look at the Angels lineup, and it won't look a hell of a lot worse than this one. This is not a good lineup right now. But I mean, Royce Lewis being terrible now, and you're just playing a collection. I mean, yesterday, Christian Vasquez had 60% of their hits.
Yeah.
So I don't know but the loss Saturday will live in infamy. That's changed. That's changed everything. That loss was I saw Gleeman write something about apparently John Bonus has had the stick of the worst loss of the year, made it a shtick. This was the worst loss of the year, I think. They've had others.
Yeah, I was going to say the Padres. They've had about 4. And can we have Tommy Watkins please stop trying to score guys?
I think you got to fire him. I mean, you might not.
They'll
be
reassign him like they did Tony Diaz.
Yeah,
he had the same problem.
You might not be able to wait till the end of the season. He's gotten about 4 guys thrown out that had no chance here in the last 2 weeks, right?
I know.
Who was the guy who got thrown out by 15 feet with nobody out the other night, last week? They were still home then, right? They were still home.
Yeah, it was the night after the Kepler. He waved Kepler and then held him, and I think it was the next night. There was somebody he waved and got him thrown out by. Who was that?
With nobody out early, right?
That was at home.
First inning, second inning, something like that.
Miranda on Saturday or on Sunday
Slow.
was dead. Yeah, he slid right in the tag. And by the way, you can't try and jar the bar loose, so there's no play.
No, you can't do anything. No. Tommy is in. It's funny. The first year he was there, he was very controversial, and maybe because for setting guys. Second year he was better, and then for the last couple of years we haven't been on him too much. But boy, this is one of the worst runs we've ever had for a third base coach here in the last 2 weeks. As the team has gone in the tank, he has contributed in a slight way. Great guy. It's too bad, but man alive. And tonight, by the way, I was looking at this Labor Day. Now, Labor Day weekend isn't a good weekend here for attendance. People go to the fair or something. But around baseball, like the Sunday and then Labor Day, which everybody doesn't play on Labor Day anymore, but the crowds were huge. And then I looked at the Tuesday after Labor Day, and they were like half of what they were everywhere. And so we'll have a nice, comfy 9,000 real, 14,000 announced, 15,000 announced here for this Angel series. people are upset about the way they're playing, but the kids are back in school. They don't go to games anymore. So,
in fact, they were saved last week by the Blue Jays because the Manitoba contingent was enormous. But once they were gone,
what is amazing to me because the Toronto stinks, but Toronto they had big expectations, and now they've gotten rid of everybody they can. But I guess everybody makes their arrangements like, well, let's go to Minnesota, and they decide in June they're going to be there for a weekend in August. They still like to go to the big mall, I think, and maybe, I don't know if they went to the fair. But last weekend, though, Labor Day weekend, you're competing with 250,000 people at the fair.
I know.
Who was 250, even if they're lying, which they probably are by 10%, what are you going to do there with 200,000 people walking around? How am I going to get a Pronto Pup, a 6-incher, when I'm behind some guy hanging out for a Papa Pronto Pup or something?
There was some line, some new food. I think it was Declan was talking about it. I think they waited in line for like an hour and a half for it or something.
Yeah, I showed somebody. I saw that on Twitter. I'm not. Is that the French fried ranch dressing or something?
Yeah, it's something to do with ranch dressing. Yeah, you're right. But what are we doing?
What's wrong with us? Go eat a Pronto Pup. Do what I do. Go eat a Pronto Pup and go home. A 6-incher, by the way, not one of those 2-footers.
Not to mention, things aren't cheap there. The beer ain't cheap.
Oh, God, no.
Nothing's
getting
cheap.
Getting in is no longer cheap. $16 for kids now.
Is it really?
Anybody over 5, $16. 18 for adults and 16 for kids.
God, I didn't know that. Whew.
Yeah, it's anyway. It's over for another year, thank God. So. But what else we got? We got to. That's all we got, right? Twins
got the
and
Vikings. We got the Twins.
Vikings
we got
taking up. We
PJ
named our PWHL team today.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah. The Freeze.
Freeze. Is it the Freeze? Yeah, it's the Freeze. They got. So my name, which was perfect, didn't win. Backstabbers. I had the bag. That would have been a great name for hockey, wouldn't it?
Oh, and a great logo. And a great
Backstabbers,
logo.
yeah, you're cross-checking somebody, right, from behind. It would have been fantastic.
Or just with your stick.
Like this. They're going, somebody's skating away with you, and you got the skate. We don't have to show the violent action. We can just hit at it. We can just hint at it, right?
You have come up with more good hockey ideas.
Yes,
the Herbie. The Herbie, which they should have used.
That tournament would have worked if they would have just called it the Herbie, because you could have had St. Cloud, Herbie, Minnesota, Herbie, Duluth was established program. Herbie always supported it when he didn't play it. And then whoever finishes higher the previous year, Bemidji or Mankato, you could have had your four-team tournament instead of the Minnesota Hockey Classic. You never had a chance as the Minnesota Hockey Classic.
And they pulled the plug so quick, too. They didn't give it a chance.
Yes. They didn't give it a chance.
Correction, it's the Minnesota Frost, not the Freeze.
Frost. Okay,
it's the Frost.
Okay, the nicknames, a lot of singulars there, I think, in the nicknames.
Boston
right? A lot
Fleet.
of collective. That's a collective. Fleet?
Yeah, the Boston Fleet, the New York Sirens,
Okay, we got an S on Sirens anyway.
The Ottawa Charge.
The Ottawa Charge, who, by the way, are using the Calgary Flames logo. Did you see it?
No.
It looks identical.
Oh, yeah, here I see it.
It does. It looks identical.
But it's just an O.
Instead of a C.
And I'm going to butcher these. The Victor de Montreal and the Toronto Skeptres? S-C-E-P-T-R...
Spectres?
It's S-C-E-P-T-R-E-S. So
I'll have to... Scepters. That's my gal, Teresa Resch from Lakefield, Minnesota, who was with the... No, wait, she's in the WNBA.
Yeah, she's not a hockey.
Excuse me, she's not going into hockey.
She's going to run the...
She's going to run their new WNBA team 2 years from now, I believe.
So the Scepters... Yeah, I screwed that up.
Scepters.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
So how many, what do we got? 2 Canadian teams? Ottawa and Toronto?
Yeah.
Ottawa and Toronto. And then
3. Montreal, Ottawa, Toronto.
Okay.
New York.
So there's
Boston,
only three
Minnesota.
U.S. There's only three U.S. teams then, huh?
Yep, and we're gonna
Well,
start.
we're the world champions, but they'll always be the backstabbers to me. God dang it! So
And we're gonna start at the end of November now.
when did we start last year?
January, I think. After the New
they
Year.
just started late. Yeah.
So it's gonna be a longer season.
They need a couple more teams, don't they? But I guess with the guy financing it, with that, what did he give him, $10 million or something to start the league, or
The Walter
something?
family.
The Walter family. I think $100 million, right, for 10 years.
I don't
or
even
something.
know, but
I think $10 million each year. So
Yep.
whatever it is to.
I mean, it's a
finance
good
it.
product. I just wish our
I
I just
just
wish our
wonder-
team could get along.
I just wonder if the hitting is a good idea though, because the goal scoring has been very low in the playoffs. Nobody scored any goals, right? So I'm wondering if letting them run into each other is that good an idea? Because of low scoring, you got to get some goals in the game, don't you?
Well.
Yeah, I mean a lot of 1-0, 2-0s here when they were in the finals. Didn't they blew a 2-0 lead or something, which was like impossible, and then I think they won the. Did they win the championship game in overtime, 1-0 or something? I think so. Anyway.
No, the last game. So there was.
They blew them out the last game.
where they scored a goal at the X and thought that they had won the championship.
Thought they won the game.
It was ruled no goal.
Ruled no
and then
goal.
they had to go
That's
back
right.
to Boston, and they won.
And they won that against
They bought
all
the-
odds.
The now Boston Fleet.
Yes, they beat the Fleet. They're going to have a rivalry with the Fleet, but we'll see how they draw next year. The novelty last year helped, but I don't know if I don't. They got a new general manager from out of town, Caruso. Not any relation to Glenn, but
No, she was. I think she spent like last 10+ years as an American Hockey League executive. Somebody said her husband works for the Wild, so she lived here.
oh, okay.
Which I'm not
Well,
familiar with
good
who
for her.
her husband is. But
Hopefully, she can get along with
Ken Clee?
Cone
Ken Clee.
Stanfield. And
Oh, yeah, the
Clee
players,
and
too. Good
Cone
point.
Stanfield and Les Steckline. And she can get Lee Steckline. If she can get along with them, then she'll be okay. So
Yeah, poor Darwin.
that's okay. Anyway, you want to? Am I supposed to sell you a car? today?
Yes, you are. I was going to ask you about that next. If you're driving to the X
I'll
in
tell
winter,
you.
what do I
Yes,
do?
I got to tell you, this run of weather we're having has been fantastic. Since a week ago Thursday, we had that incredibly wonderful storm that cleaned out everything. Have we had a drop of rain now in about 8-9
Little
days?
sprinkle.
Perfect
sprinkles.
time to go out to Jim Paul and Brett Paul's Valley Group of GM dealers. See those cars glistening in the lot out there under this beautiful blue skies that we've had lately. And we got a full supply of Buicks now, 4 different brands of SUVs from various sizes. There's a new station wagon that they have. We got the big trucks, the Sierra heavy-duty trucks, full stock of those. They even have, as I've been saying, the Hummer EV, which I'd like to see one of those. I still haven't seen one. But Jim Paul and Brett Paul, we got low interest rates now, 0.9, 1.9 for some vehicles. And better yet, you have factory rebates, too, that are back from GMC here. So anyway, check them out. They're in Apple Valley and Hastings. I've been doing business with the guys in Apple Valley for 12, 13, 14 years. I don't know how long, about 6, 7 different vehicles. And I've always been satisfied. So try out Jim Paul and Brett Paul's Valley Group of GM dealers, Hastings and Apple Valley.
Final thoughts before we skedaddle?
Final thoughts. Who we got coming in to play the Vikings? Who's our home
San
opener?
Francisco, Sunday afternoon.
San Francisco's got some issues, right? Are they gonna? They're trying to decide how much they want to pay Brock Purdy, huh?
Yeah, and they're playing tonight against the Jets. So
so we got the Monday advantage too,
Monday
right?
advantage,
We
that's
got the
exactly
Monday
right.
advantage.
And McCaffrey's had some type of leg problem.
He didn't
maybe?
play. He didn't play here last year, right? Did
No, he played here. Debo didn't play here.
Debo didn't play? Debo's healthy though. Debo's
healthy, which is
McCaffrey's always hurt, and the fact that you use him like you do. But I wouldn't say 2-0 is out of the question.
Look at that.
I think San Francisco might be a little overrated. So I thought the Rams were pretty good last night, didn't you think?
That was a fun
Did
game.
you watch it?
Yes.
Yeah. What was with David Montgomery on that last drive, though? I guess the right tackle was killing people. Sewell, or whatever his name is, is supposed to be the best tackle.
And Montgomery's a good runner.
But he's a hard runner, too, man. He could. It's kind of fun when you all of a sudden you get to the 30 and all you got to do is hand it off to some crazed running back. Was he with the Packers? Where was he from?
Bears.
Packers?
Bears. And the Vikings.
Bears,
the Vikings actually tried to sign him at the same time Detroit got him.
Oh, and then they got Aaron Jones instead.
No, I think he was a free agent for the Bears like 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay. The Vikings.
I think Dalvin Cook was still here at the time, but he was.
Did Dalvin is Dalvin get on the field this weekend? Where's he? Arizona?
He's with the Cowboys now. I don't know. He did.
Cowboys.
I saw Zeke scored a touchdown.
How'd Zim's defense look? Woo! They kicked some hiney. They were aggressive as hell.
What are the Browns going to do? Deshaun Watson looks awful, Pat.
Awful, and they got him. They got him all guaranteed for like 5 years, right?
Yeah.
It's
worse than Kirk. It's way worse than Kirk was.
The first of the enormous contracts. Plus, he's a bad guy.
Yes.
I mean, I don't like Kirk, but I wouldn't say he's a bad guy.
Right.
This guy's a bad guy. And he's a smug SOB, too. Answering his questions yesterday, it's
he's just not. I mean, he's not good.
Who made that? Who's their general manager there that made that deal for him?
Oh, it's
He's still there?
I think it's Quasi's friend, Andrew something.
Wow.
Because Quasi worked for him.
I mean, that's a disaster for that franchise.
Oh,
They're trying to get him to build him a new stadium too, right? Didn't I see that?
I think you're right.
Cleveland.
I think they might be.
Yeah.
I think they might.
They're not going to. That looked like a 3-14 team last night, though. They were brutal.
Yeah.
Stefanski's been the coach of the year, twice in 4 years?
And there's expectations there too, Pat. If they're not good, it's going to be. But I mean, Deshaun, since he went there, looks like he just can't play anymore.
No. How can that be? I don't get it. I don't know. It. But Houston, they're getting rid of him. They've given up. Now they got C.J. Stroud, who turned out to be the best of that lot of draft choices last year.
Well, Bryce Young looks.
God, Carolina, he's terrible.
Awful.
40. The Saints aren't supposed to be that good, are they? 47-10.
No, they're not.
There were actually the Vikings blowout. There was about 4 blowouts in the NFL yesterday, which is high for the NFL. Of course, he had a lot of games that went down to the wire, but anyway, yeah, oof, yeah. Cleveland, those Cleveland fans, they aren't going to take it well. But Atlanta, I love Atlanta because to re-mention, when you drafted Penix, didn't you know that was a disaster? Because if Kirk comes out and has 2 bad games, the crowd's going to be booing the hell out of him, and they want Penix. Well, what the hell? Why'd you do this? You're the stupidest thing ever.
Well, yeah. I have no idea. It's crazy. And I guarantee you, though, that there's got to be warring factions, right?
Oh,
so there's got to be a faction of the franchise that says we should start Penix now. And then and then the second faction says, but we signed Cousins to this huge contract. What do we do?
We can't get rid of him.
We can't get rid of him.
And by the way,
Achilles is screwed.
You forgot to tell your owner what you were going to do. Yeah. You had to have your owner walk over and say, why'd you draft that guy? That was not that guy's. If this doesn't work, he ain't going to make it till December.
Zim will not be the last coach that Kirk got fired. Let's put it that way.
No, that's true. All righty.
All right. Talk to you later.
Vikings. I'm 2-0. Mr. Optimism
bandwagon.
With the Vikings. Well, get on the bandwagon with me, you front runners. Come on. Let's go.
All right. Talk to you.
See you.